Thank you so much for joining me today in the throne room. Today, we're going to talk a little bit about the first episode of The Young Pope. It actually does star Jude Law, and there's so many other great actors that are in the series. So, without further ado, we're going to talk about the first episode of The Young Pope. Now, the newly elected Pope Pius the Eighth. I don't know, aka Lenny Belardo, defies expectations as he settles in the Vatican to begin his reign. So, the youngest pope in history, first ever American pope, Lenny's ascension was orchestrated by the Vatican Secretary of State, Cardinal Voiello, who mistakenly believed the young pope would follow his lead on policy and protocol, which did not happen. So, without further ado, we're going to go in on what happened on the young pope. And as you know, this is Jude Law, so you know he's going to do his thizzle. So, without further ado, we're going to go ahead and get into that right now. Thank you for tuning into me right now on the throne room. And actually, this has been sponsored by channelclip.net, which is basically a network that promotes independent creators for free. So it's a really cool platform, and I'm so pleased to be a part of it. And I was actually asked to promote them. So it's definitely something that I would love to tell you a little bit more about. But at this time, we're going to talk about the young pope. So let's go ahead and get into that. But at this time, currently, I want to give a shout out to Kyle's Freaking Chickens. He's definitely people that do great content, and I think that a lot of other people should start giving out shout outs to other creators as well. If you might want to check him out and subscribe to his channel, he is on The Walking Dead. I actually am showcasing his most of his content for him on channelclip.net. He's actually the only one besides myself that's been invited, so it's going to be really cool. All the great content that we've collected of his to promote for free, on that end. So thank you so much for. Without further ado, this is Young Pope. So it starts out. The beginning of the show starts out where he's getting a call, and he wakes up and he's looking around in his room. He has a small little bed, and he puts his little slippers on. He gets out the bed and he goes into the bathroom, and he takes a look in the mirror because, he's a pope, so very good looking guy. I've never. But anyway, he brushes his teeth, he gets ready, and he's listening to some weird music. And so, then he's now taking a shower. But as we move forward in this series, we find that it's actually a dream that he's having. And when he okay, so what happens next is he's basically walking around looking at everything. He puts on his robe. He starts walking around and looking around, and all of the cardinals that are dressed in red are looking at him. He looking at them. They looking at him. He's like, "What?" They like, "What?" They like, "Huh?" He's like, "What?" So he starts looking around, and he's like, "What the heck is going on?" That's kind of how he is. He looks bewildered, as well as you're witnessing the fact that he's watching everybody looking at him crazy, but it's just a weird situation. So he moves through the crowd. He's in the middle of the Vatican, of course, and so everybody's looking at him, because he's the Pope. He's a Holy Father, and there's even men that are a lot older than him that are bowing to him and looking at him, and look at, he's definitely the Pope, so they have to like respect him for that. So he walks through, and he continues to walk through the large building, and he sees three sisters, and they smile at him and moves forward. They move out the way, and then there's two women sitting there with their hands on head. But before all that happened, he actually crawled out from a bunch of babies that were dead. Really strange. So I don't understand that part of it. I think that's probably from all the babies that died from abortion. I don't know. Maybe he had it on his mind. So he's sitting there, and then he thinks about a girl that he saw when he was younger, and he puts his hand over his face because he's thinking about impure thought, I guess. And so they all, are looking around, and then they see, and then it changes. He's standing about to go out to talk to everybody. He does a homily, and so the new pope. That's kind of the first speech that he makes to the people, introduce himself and what type of things he's gonna be doing. Apologize for that outburst that came into the room at that time. But ultimately, what's going down is that the dream is actually a premonition as to what's going to happen next, because Voiello thinks that he's in charge. He tells him, after he gets done with his speech, because his speech is really crazy, he starts to saying, "Ciao, Rome, hello, world." And then he starts talking about, we forgot to do something. And he says, he starts talking about how to be happy, how to be real with yourself, because, we need to celebrate everything. We need to celebrate how to be free. And it's just a beautiful speech. So I'll go ahead and let you watch him do it. And I will go ahead, if you want to go ahead and check out the full Pope, you can go ahead and check it out. I do have a streaming version. It's in about 7 parts, and it will actually debut on the 6th, I'll show you a full version of that screen from my server from my own, account. So it's actually through my channel clip account. You can check it out in full version. But either way, if you don't have a subscription, you can go ahead and take advantage of HBO. Actually, I'm chilling with the Roku right now, so I really like it. And you can actually create your own channel on Roku. So it's really cool because you can actually take advantage of other videos that you wouldn't normally see on YouTube. So that's another thing. But getting back to what happened in this Pope series, this Pope is something else. It's really interesting because he's young. He's, not from over there. He speaks fluent Italian. He's definitely one of those people that has his own mind. He brings in his stepmother, that was actually the nun that raised him. His parents left him all alone when he was a kid. So he doesn't have any natural parents that actually are tied to him in any kind of way. And for the time that he begins to be the Pope, Viola's telling him, when are you going to do this? When are you going to do that? He goes, well, maybe we'll wait to do that later. You know, um, Definitely don't want to do that right now. He pulls out a cigarette. Um, he tells him he can't smoke, and he goes, "Who told you that?" And he goes, John Paul II. He goes, "Well, you got a new pope now." I thought it was really amazing how he put him, in his place on that level. Prior to that, he also was talking to him, and he was just second guessing everything he said, telling him what he should and shouldn't do. And he just rolled his eyes, smiled. He also told him, "I need some coffee. I really need coffee." And he told his servant to do it, which was Voiello, the guy that was in his dream, that basically told him, "I'm the Pope now. You're no longer the Pope. I've always been the Pope. I'm in charge." So that was the end of his dream, and that's when he woke up and started, walking around and assuming his position to be the Pope, because he was voted in. It wasn't like, they just, he just came about there. They actually have a voting process, and, when the white smoke comes out, that means that they've chosen someone to be the next Pope. And he, Lenny Belardo's the next Pope. So his stepmother comes in and she tells him, "Don't worry about what happened in the past. You're no longer the orphan with no parents. Now you are the Pope, and you have to do your thing." So she told him that, and, he basically has her right next to him, somebody he trusts within the Vatican, and it's very interesting. And, he's definitely one of those people that intrigues me. I like Jude Law just for the simple fact that he does bring something different to the table, which is realness. I don't care what anybody says. I love the Ripley movie that he did with Matt Damon. I think he's doing a wonderful job on this series as well. There's actually there's Diane Keaton's in it as well, and there's some other individuals that are very talented as well. Violo, the guy that's his protagonist, is is definitely someone that I feel that is very he's very talented. I like him because he's not trying to be something he's not. Like some actors you can kind of see like, wow, that's not them. I mean, he could play the next Godfather, I swear, but that's another thing. The guy is crazy. I mean, he is so mad. Um, he tells him who is Pius the 13th, and who's Lenny Belardo. He says that, and then he actually says that he wants to go through a small investigation to see what's going on. He has weak spot. He has trials and tribulations, his sins, and he's talking to this other guy, especially his sins. Now, first of all, because the sins we commit in the past are the same ones we'll commit in the future, he says. And then he goes on to say, because a man is like God. And then he says he never changes. And it's this series is just all things that are great, but it's the situation of papacy around. Isn't that more serious? No, not yet. But if we were to become so, we'll be ready. So, there's like a bunch of people that are working against him because the powerful one may have knowledge, but they don't realize what it takes to be more powerful than anyone else. And then he goes on to say to the other guy, "And what does it take?" He's like, "What is it?" He wants to know now. He got some intrigued. It takes getting knowledge before anyone else does. So understanding what other people know. And right when he says that, the Pope 13th goes in and he starts talking to the confessional priest that knows everything about everybody in the Vatican. And he starts telling him what he needs to do to tell him what's going down. So it's very interesting how he gets his way no matter what he does. He definitely is one of those people that I don't care. I mean, it's wrong to say this, but he looks so good in that white outfit. I'm wrong, I know, but it's the truth. He looked good. But either way, he tells him, that he has to tell him the truth about everything that's going on because he's the Holy Father. And I thought that was so cool and calculating because he does need to know. He's come to clean house. And he's there, and he's just like, I need to know what's going down. And I don't know. I am going to run out of time right now because I want to go ahead and take a break, but I will come back in a few seconds. It'll be part two to the Pope, episode one, and then we'll go into two right after. So thank you so much for tuning into the throne room. Be right back in a few moments.